it going to cut my benefits? Is it going to cut my insurance? You know, that's something we're going to have to work through, I believe. But I do believe it's something that needs to be implemented. I believe a pay scale that could come along with it could really protect the county in certain instances. Any type of favoritism, alleged discriminations, anything that could come out of different employee situations. The attorney Lindahl, she's got me a couple of examples here that I think it will be a good starting point for this board to look at and to go through and seriously think about implementing to save any further troubles with employee situations, whether that be lawsuits or just accusations or whatever the county may face. I think it's a very professional way to run the county government. In a merit system, you have I call it a 3-strike system. You know, if an employee, every problem with any employee that's terminated has had to go through a certain amount of warnings or write-ups to be terminated. Now, in a lot of cases, that's directly against what we work under now. We work under an at-will. We're in an at-will employment, meaning, well, as of right now, you work at the will of the chairman. And that is the one thing I want to change, is that every employee, no matter who occupies this board or any department, they work under a set of standards that are set out for them to follow. It doesn't matter if you did vote, didn't vote for the person, whether you get along or don't get along, as long as you do your job and you do a good job for the county, your job is safe. But if you have problems that are not addressed and it's documented and there is ample reason for you to not work at the county anymore, I would like for all that documentation to be on file. That way, in the case of any terminations, the county has a lot better chance, in my opinion, of defending themselves if that employee feels like they were wrongfully done. So that's one of my key things, is rather than being at will with the employees, they simply work and act upon a set of standards which are laid out for them. I think that is a very fair way to work. And it's going to take some alterations to work in Fannin County, because Fannin County, we do have a chairman and a CEO, and that is the chairman, and he's elected to be the chairman and run the day-to-day operations in our county. I feel like that should stay exactly as it is, because I do not feel like we need a county manager, which in my opinion, 99% of the times are fall guys. When things aren't going good, then the board says, well, he's not doing a good job, let's get rid of him. And then they have another chance. I don't think we need a county manager. I think the one who's already paid to be here every day and was elected to be here every day and handle all the day-to-day operations should stay the same. The other change, and the merit system is very lengthy. Just to give you an example, it's a very lengthy thing, and it needs a lot of attention taken to it. This is how thick it is. But it does cover, from what I've read, it covers every situation that this county could encounter with any of its employees. And I think that is a smart way to move forward. I think a pay scale implemented will stop pay scales from being all over the board. Because right now, our pay scales are all over the board. You don't have a title attached to how much a person makes now. And in my humble opinion, that's nothing but trouble brewing for the future. Now, in private entity, I can pay someone as much as I want to or as least as I want to, and I really don't have to worry about it in the state of Georgia what they think about it, unless I'm doing it for a discriminating reason. But in government, we're all held to a different standard, and I think we need We need to come into that standard. I know we've done things in Fannin County like this for 40 years. I've heard that from several people too. Have every right to feel that way, that we've done well for 40 years. I do believe we've done well for 40 years. But it is the 21st century. There is a thing called the internet that has changed every life in this room. It's changed our whole society. And some of the things that used to happen that way can't happen that way anymore. And I think a step in the right direction will be this merit system for its employees. And for the taxpayers, and whom I'm most concerned about, it will save them in claims in the future against their taxpayers' dollars. And that's who I'm most concerned with, is the taxpayers. I didn't get elected to come into this courthouse and protect every county employee. When I got elected by the general taxpayer. And the general taxpayer is who I'm going to serve. I'm also going to serve the county employees, and I want them to work under a fair set of standards. That's why I'm proposing this right now to this board. I think it's a fair set of standards that we can all understand, and we can all live with. So the merit system, I believe, and you know, of course, I'll wait to hear the input from the others, but I believe it's a step in the right direction. It takes a lot of the blame off, and then if it implemented, then whoever the chairman is from now on can't get blamed every time something goes wrong with an employee problem. Because, believe it or not, I don't think that's fair either. Because sometimes employees are just problems. I have had, in my years in business, a lot of problem employees. But I've had some great employees. But something like this takes all that out of the question. It's documented, it's all recorded, and no matter what the situation is, you can handle it and stand a lot better chance if there is indeed a claim against the county. The department heads is where I guess you would call, or what I've been told is the biggest change in what I see. The department heads and or supervisors, I feel, should work for the Board of Commissioners. That is my opinion. I think in that case, I think all commissioners on the board will be better informed. Just like budget processes. I think when someone with the county wants to request an increase with the county, I think that if they work for the board, they will ask the entire board. Instead of making one phone call, they'll make 3. As of right now, I've had one department head ask me, out of all the department heads in the county, I have had one ask me what I thought of their proposed budget. One. Now, maybe they all just don't care what I think. I don't know. And then that may be the case. I don't think so. I just think they're so used to you ask one man everything. I feel like, since I'm going to be voting on it, that whatever communication goes on with that department head, I need to be involved in it from the very beginning. I think it will be fair for them. That way, the story that I'm getting is it's the story from the horse's mouth of why they need what they need or what they need. And maybe if they contacted me, I wouldn't have to ask them to get up here in front of the commissioners meeting and explain to all of you why they need what they need. But since that's not the organization that we're working under, I feel that department heads should work for the Board of Commissioners. They should be appointed by the Board of Commissioners. They should, I honestly think that that's the only way that a board who has to answer for every issue, and that is the case. I wind up answering for issues in which I had nothing to do with. But once department heads, if they work for the entire Board of Commissioners, I will be informed within several minutes, I would say, of the other 2 commissioners finding out exactly what's happening. And I think that's a fair request from me. It's just to be informed. That's what I've said for almost a year. I just want to be included in the same information that the other commissioners get so I can make those educated decisions. Because it's very hard to make an educated decision if you're not educated whatsoever in the situation. So that are my major, I guess you would call it, for now, my major two proposals is that the department heads of the county and or supervisors. And this is not anything that hasn't been done in other counties. It works like this in Gilman County. Well, it did until the current chairman, who's now leaving his office in January, decided he would rename supervisors. He renamed supervisors and didn't appoint any supervisors, so everybody that was over a department head was just an employee. But either way, the chairman still had the say-so overall. And I don't think that would happen here in Fannin County. But here's what we need to do. We need to ensure that no matter who holds these three chairs, from now on, can't do silly things. Because this government's way too important. Fannin County is way too important for stuff like that to happen. Luckily, in Fannin County, this commission board has not stalled on any business whatsoever in this county. And I'm very proud of that. Now, you want to ask something I am proud of? This board has accomplished a lot of business in the past 2 years that I've been fortunate enough to serve on. Haven't agreed on everything, but we haven't disagreed on anything either. I think we all share mutual respect for each other, even in times when we may not agree. And I think that's the way it should be. It should be a responsible manner in which we all conduct ourselves. And that shouldn't just go for those three commissioners. It should go for anyone else as well. Whether you are a tax-paying citizen or whether you're just a visitor here in our county, I think we should all respect each other equally. I think our meetings should be in order. I think we should all treat each other as you would want us to treat you. Luckily, we've not stalled any business, and that's a good sign for Fannin County taxpayers. These changes require a lot of thought, because we definitely don't want to pass something or change something and look back a year later and say, oh my gosh, why did I do that? I really don't think we need to do that. I think we need more input from the citizens. I think the three of us need to talk about it more thoroughly and explain to each other how our feelings are and what we think, because we all hear from three different groups. That's why you elect three different people. And as far as the votes, there are three different people sitting up there. I'm going to say this short, my speech will be over. When something is voted on in this meeting, I, as Fannin County's Post-Mortem Commissioner, expect it to be followed, whatever the vote is. Whether, no matter what side of the vote I'm on, whether I'm on the winning side or whether I'm on the losing side, however the majority carries on this board, I expect it to be followed. No matter what. No matter what. Because if the majority vote doesn't ever carry, whether it's voting on fuel, whether it's voting on what time the courthouse is going to open and what time it's going to operate, if the vote doesn't matter here, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here. You don't need to be listening to it. You can just sit and listen to one person, and y'all can all agree, and everybody smile and grin and go home. But whatever vote is taken here, and I'm going to urge this to our office, our commissioner's office, whatever vote is taken here, whatever vote is carried, it needs to be binding. Because if it's not binding, the county does not need to waste its money paying me. And I know that sounds silly for me to say, but I'm just showing you how serious I am about how serious I think each and every vote that's taken here is. And that's about all I've got to say, and I welcome any input from any of the other commissioners of how they feel. And any of you that would like a copy of what we're looking at. And before I stop, Lynn, do you have anything that you feel like that I missed out on in the merit system? Is there any way you can explain just real quickly to everyone the differences between a merit system and how once a merit system is passed, it can be amended but never taken back? Is there any way, and I hate to put you on the spot, but you sit back and looking all happy, I figured I would.
No, you did a really good job of explaining. And what you have is an example, because
Right.
there's lots of blanks, there's lots of things that if this board were to vote to do that, and usually when you have a system like what you're talking about, it is a system with a county manager. So if anybody picks up a copy of that draft, as I explained to the commissioners when I sent it to them, based on the direction that Commissioner Johnson had given me, which was that he was not proposing a county manager, that the chairman of the Board of Commissioners would serve in that role. So I've tried to use the nomenclature in the right place. I do not know why, but the state of Georgia does not require any county or city to have any kind of merit system, have any kind of pay scale, have any property right in your job. Georgia's considered an at-will work state. But many things that a Board of Commissioners do, they cannot bind the future administration. But one exception to that rule is that if a Board of Commissioners puts into place a merit system, property right in your job, that cannot be changed. Once that system goes into effect, the county has that system under the laws that exist now, and it's been that way for 40 years, cannot be changed. So, and that's just one of those little strange things that's out there that anybody has to consider when they're making a decision such as this. The other thing is, I don't have any idea what anybody gets paid in this county or what job classifications, so I didn't even have job classifications to give you as an example. And I heard you say correctly, this does not apply to anybody that would work for any of the elected officials, any of the appointed boards, or any of the constitutional officers. That being said, any of those elected officials, constitutional officers, or appointed boards can choose to make their employees under this system.
They have that choice.
They have that choice.
They can't be, and let everyone be clear about that. This does not affect those elected officers, as she just said. They can choose to come under it if they choose to do so. But it does not affect those offices in which we have no say-so anyway. In other words, they're the elected official. But since we have no say-so in there anyway, that's why I really don't care if it affects them or not. They have to answer to their own group of voters. So, Done.
Could I say something? And I want you to hear this too, then. Everything that you just spoke about right up there a minute ago about the job descriptions, the pay scale, the process for disciplinary action and terminating people and things like that. I've already got all that stuff in place in my office, but my employees still work at the will of the sheriff. I guess you could say it's kind of like just a courtesy practice that we have in our office, just to make sure that our people, since I've been in office, I've not terminated anybody without cause. I've not done that. And we have a process that we follow. We have a policy manual. We have a code of conduct policy within our policy manual that evidently it's very similar to a document that you have up there, because it covers just about every single action that somebody can commit, whether they're on duty or off duty, it don't matter. And it has recommendations about what type of disciplinary action to attach to those offenses. And sometimes it's an open recommendation, everything from an open recommendation all the way to termination. So we have all of those things in place already, but we don't have a merit system. Our employees still work at the discretion of the sheriff, and the way we handle it is when we have an employee that steps outside of our policy, our supervisors, it starts with them. They document the incident, then they turn it over to the division commander, which are usually lieutenants, and they conduct an investigation and go on a fact-finding mission. When they assemble all their facts, they make a decision about what type of disciplinary action they feel is appropriate. Every bit of this is documented in writing, and we have forms that we use with narrative sections and things like that. And when it's all said and done and they've made their decision, they take it to my chief deputy, he reviews it, and then before any action is taken, they bring it to me. And normally, they have already gathered all the facts and have come up with an appropriate way to handle whatever the situation is, and I usually go along with it. And that's the way we handle those things, but it's documented from the time we start until the time we finish. And it's an exact model of what you're talking about up there, but that don't mean that I can't still terminate somebody without cause, because I can. This program that we use, in a sense, is a courtesy, just, to kind of check ourselves and make sure that we're not wronging anybody. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, ma'am, but we've been sued a few times and we've won every time.
Yeah, I mean, and I did not mean to imply by what I said that, I'm well aware of the policy that the sheriff's had, because I've had to work with him on it, and they do document. Every other office may already have such a policy. I'm just saying that I don't believe they all do, but even if they did, there's no way for this board to control what goes on in the sheriff's office, clerk of court, probate, magistrate, superior court, coroner, tax assessors, tax commissioner.
Right. In other words, it's the same thing we're talking about, except the only difference is a new sheriff could come in and clean house. That's the thing I'm trying to get away from, because I think, now in the sheriff's office, I don't know anything about it, don't want to know anything about it. But as far as the county goes, if a new politician of any sorts took office and didn't like 7 of our 12 department heads, or had 7 cousins that really needed jobs, he could do that. I don't think that's fair for Fannin County, because I don't think any of those jobs should be dictated to by who you vote for, who you're related to, or who even cares. I think it should be done by how good a job you do. I don't think any board or single commissioner should ever have that type, especially any single commissioner should ever have that type of power. Ever. Ever. Because the way we are set up right now, our whole road department will be terminated tomorrow. And I just sit here and say, sorry. I mean, as far as that goes, anybody, our county attorney, our department heads, our employees, really a chairman who had a big family could get everybody in his family a job real quick. And I do not think that's fair. And if any of you feel like that's fair, then we'll just have to agree to disagree. Because I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair for the taxpayers. I don't think it's fair for the employees. I don't think it's fair for anyone. I think if we have, I wonder if since the sheriff has a model we might could go by with pay scale, job description, everything else, I wonder if, because usually the problems when you have with employees aren't when you hire them, it's usually if you ever have to terminate them. I wonder if we could put, if it's a good enough model to go by, we might could bypass everything in the merit system that we have here. No, maybe not everything, because they sound pretty similar. And the chairman still do all the hiring and firing, but maybe the board of commissioners be the appeal board.
That's
In other
one
words,
model.
if they feel they've been wronged before they're terminated, the board of commissioners have the final say-so in whether there was indeed enough evidence to terminate that position or that person. I wonder if that would be an option to go with. I mean, that might be the simplest option. That's why we need to talk and get these ideas out.
I hate to keep interrupting, I know this is not appropriate, but on what you just said right there, Earl, the key to that right there is you have to teach your supervisors or your department heads how to supervise. They have to know how to supervise in order for that system right there to work.
Well, surely we wouldn't have them in a supervisory role if they didn't know how to supervise.
Well, I'm just saying, whether they know how or not, if, under that system right there, if my supervisors didn't know how to supervise, my system wouldn't work. I've sent every one of my supervisors to all 3 levels of supervision school. And it's crucial because under that system right there, your supervisors have to know how to supervise. And that's one of the steps. I know I've heard people talk about performance-based salary increases and things like that. It becomes even more important when you start stepping out into that stuff. So supervisors that know how to supervise is key.
I feel like in our supervisory roles, I don't know how you feel.
Now, I'm not talking about y'all, I'm talking about department heads that work under y'all.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Surely, they wouldn't be in that role if they weren't qualified. But if all the department heads work for the board of commissioners, then surely, especially then, after there would be a 3-way decision, they would definitely be the right people in the right spot. And if not, then you hold those 3 accountable rather than just the one. So maybe that's an avenue to take as far as, having the supervisors in the right spot.
So you want me to send you one that has chairman hires and fires and the entire board is the appeal board?
What are our options, I guess?
Well,
Is that an option?
that is an option. I mean, there's probably as many options as there are people sitting in this room. You just have to come up with a model you have to come up with a model and then tweak it to work for your organization.
I just want to tweak it and make it work for Fannin County to the best of its ability. That's what I want to do.
I'll send you
And
that
get
one.
rid of that model where, like the sheriff, I feel like, I think in the sheriff's office especially, I think in the sheriff's office, the sheriff should be at will.
Yes, sir.
Just for this very reason.
Yes, sir.
If there is a growing discomfort with how our sheriff provides law in our county, that's usually what gets sheriffs beat. Or that's usually how sheriffs win, is that they can prove that they can do something better. So I think to compare the commissioner's office to the sheriff's office would be very hard, but I don't want to law anybody. I don't want to tote a gun and tell anybody, so I think in that role, that has to be an at-will because, sometimes I'm sure there's some sheriff departments that with a new election, they have to be cleaned out because of the leadership. And everything starts at the top, in my opinion. Any problems start at the top. And so I can say that would start at the department heads. If there is a constant problem in a department, if I constantly have a problem out of a certain group of people, I go to the person who is responsible for them. That's where I start. I don't start with the guy that's doing wrong because I want to know why the guy who's supposed to be telling him how to do it right isn't. And I think in a model such as this, that may be an option, Ms. Dawes, because the problems we face as a county is always in a termination case. You really never have anybody mad that they got hired by the county. It's always they're mad because they usually don't work for the county. Matter of fact, I don't know, I've had a couple that were seeking unemployment come, and when they got a job, they really didn't want it in my company, but usually the problems I have is when they're let go. But the government has worked so much differently than private entity, and that's what I've learned, and that's what I'm trying to really explain to the crowd of of why I feel this should be changed, because we have to act a lot differently. We have to act, the biggest thing is we have to act fair. Fair is the word with every employee. And right now, I don't have any examples to give you, but pay scales being all over the board, to me, that's probably not fair. Now, is that for me to decide? This guy may be happy making what he's made for 20 years. This guy may be mad because he's getting paid too much. I don't know. But I think if we have something on paper, in which everyone abides by, all those questions are gone. So that may be a model to look at, Ms. Doss, is exactly like what the sheriff's talking about, except before there are any mass terminations or mass layoffs or a single termination. That person has a right to appeal if they feel they've been wrong. And that's just another step, I feel like, in the right direction to save the county from liability in the future. That would be my. As of right now, with the department heads, I do truly feel like however many of them there are, Rita, is there 14 department heads? Because I probably, to be clear, need to name or give examples of what I'm talking about. People are going to be thinking, what is a department head? It's 12 or 14. As an example, fire chief, road superintendent, whatever he is, the shop foreman, equipment superintendent, animal control, recreation director, EMA director. Y'all kind of get the point. If anyone doesn't, please raise their hand and I'll say some more. But I want to be very clear, because I don't want to leave this room and read something next week that I really did not say. So please, anyone, if there is any clarity you need, please ask me, because I'll definitely take the time to share with you. But the idea of county manager, completely out of the question. As for me, completely out of the question. The chairman is elected in this county as the CEO. I think that should stay the same. My throat is dry and I'm tired of talking, so I'm going to turn it over to one of the two of you gentlemen and let you see how you feel.
Sorry. I hadn't had a chance to look at all this that Ms. Dawson filled out. I'm going to, but back to the department heads, very few of the department heads give the post commissioners the respect that they really have been voted for. You can ask them something, they're really off the wall about giving you any kind of information or anything that may concern the county or whatever. But anyway, we were elected, all three of us right up here, by the people of Fannin County, all three of us were. And I feel like to do our job better, we all three need to be involved on everything that goes on in Fannin County. We've got a cell phone hanging on our side each and every day, and I answer it every time it rings. Several times there's things come across the board that I wasn't aware of. A lot of times I were, but a lot of times also I wasn't. But whatever we can do with the merit system, I don't want to hire and fire daily workers. I don't want that. Mr. Simonds is in charge of that completely. And if it's commissioner or chairman, that's his role. That's what he was elected to do. But the department heads comes under the board of commissioners. They report to us, and then we go from there. I feel, since I've studied some on this, I feel like that's also the way to go. And I intend to read this over and look it over, and whenever we have another meeting, we need to move forward on this situation. For instance, we've got a poll out again. Come in the News Observer, and this time it said, should Fannin County Commissioners indefinitely delay any changes to the local legislation governing the county? The poll come out, no 559, yes 226. And somebody supposedly out of the commissioner's office has sent a text message out over the airways want people to vote yes for this. So that's the kind of respect I'm talking about. So the coming days, I want to look at this closer, what Ms. Dawes has, and whatever input anybody's got. And we're not trying to take anything away from anybody, we just want to work with what we were voted to work for. That's all we're after. That's all I've got.
I don't know where to ask for any time to speak or not. 'Cause
We're talking about local legislation, so you gotta,
but what I'm gonna say is I worked under a mayor system for 30 years. And it come from one of the best counties that Georgia had for a long time, DeKalb County. They had a schedule of penalties, schedule of infractions. Everything was in black and white. People went to work at DeKalb, they knew where, in other words, if you got a boss, you wanna know where he's coming from, you know, at least understand where he's coming from. Where you know how to do your job, how to work. But, a merit system can be one of the best things the county can have, because it will give people, gosh, man, you know, they wanna do a good job, but if they do a good job, they can advance, and they can secure, and be secure in their job. There's not many people out there that won't lay in the bed at night and worry, can I put my heart into this job, because I might not have it for 4 years. But the man is secure in doing his job, and that personality is not even counting in it. But as long as he does his job, takes care of what he's supposed to, his performance, his duties, that he can have kind of rest assured that he can spend the rest of his life in this county working, and they'll do a better job. They're usually motivated through evaluations. The only thing about it is, like the sheriff said, he wanted to retain the right to steal, what'd you say?
At will.
At will fire without cause. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
See, that's the only thing about me. You wouldn't want to find anybody without cause, would you?
I haven't yet.
Right. So what I'm saying is, you got a marriage system, which we've had one like 2 weeks didn't implement it before, but it died when the fine got recalled. So we had like about 2 weeks having a marriage system installed, and we copied it in DeKalb counties, which it covers everything, and it's tried and true for many, many, many years. As far as the court systems, as far as people working under that type of situation of having that type of marriage system. But it's pretty well spelled out, the schedule of penalties, any infraction you do, it has a penalty. And it like I say, it gives a man a chance. If he makes a mistake, it gives him a chance to hey, undo that mistake. But, it still enables you to terminate people if they're not good people. If they're not good employees, you can still terminate them, but you can't do it overnight. You can't do it overnight. It's gonna be a paper trail. And, department heads will have to learn to do evaluations. Let a man know where he's falling short. You can change it, pick it up. But I'm telling you, you have more productivity out of what employees you do have. You've got a merit system, and they can feel rest assured that they don't just do what they gotta do to get by, because they might not be here a year. They'll do what they can, take hard into their job, and try to work, and think of their families, and it protects you all the way around. It protects you from the court system, it protects you from people, like you say, even if you got a bad supervisor, it protects you from that. But now, the department heads, if I answer to Mr. Simonds alone, which is, that's fine and good if that's what they want to do. But, and I'm gonna tell you the reason you can't get done out of the employee right now is because of the right to work state that gives the chairman the right to say, you fired. And I'm not saying anything against Bill, I don't know what he's done, he's fired anybody or not. I'm just saying that, people out there that if Bill has told me something, he said, I can keep this under, don't say nothing. Maybe it ain't nothing wrong with it, just saying, but let's just let it. That's when they gonna tell you that. They tell you to get back to Bill, Bill's gonna fire them, right? I mean, that's what they got in their mind, you know what I'm saying? So, a person needs to have some kind of security in their job. They're gonna put their heart and soul in and spend the rest of their life at it. But now, if y'all got department head and y'all want it to be a true merit system, then you're gonna have to evaluate your supervisors. Make sure they know how to supervise their job, train them to do it, whatever you're gonna do. But y'all have to do a little paperwork too. And of course, the evaluations are good, they're good motivational too, but they are a tool. And you gotta use that tool to better your employment. But I'm just saying, from my experience, you can't go wrong with a merit system. And I don't think it's gonna cost a lot of money. I don't see where it costs a lot of money to have people do a little more paperwork. Which are already on the job, on the job, but there have to be some little training involved, which ain't nothing wrong with training them. But if you train them and don't have a merit system, you still don't have a better candidate. You know what I'm saying? The merit system will work fine. And Dane's, the sheriff has got a good thing going, if he really had it. But except the fact that, one person got it right, that's the person out the thing, tell you you gone. And under a merit system, a good evaluation system, you can't bring personality into this matter. But anyway, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Anyone else?
If it works, why change it? I mean, right now you have layers of management, right? You have the department heads, and you've got your commissioners up here. But, if you get a bad commissioner or a bad chairman commissioner, then it could, that could show the favoritism that I heard Mr. Thompson talking about. And I understand you have a good record now, without problems. My concern is that I'd like to see it stay the same because you're ultimately responsible as chairman of the commission. I think that if you need to write up merits and disciplinary rules within departments, that there should be an avenue. Should start with the department head, he's held accountable. And just like in any other management or government entity, you have each layer that has to answer to the next layer. And there's an accountability process which goes back to the top. If a mistake is made by your commissioners, then you're ultimately responsible for it. And they're elected officials just like you. I like it the way it is. I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit, but I want to make sure that I'm brief about it. The reason I'd like to keep it the way it is because I've had some dealings with one of the commissioners here. And I had a ruling against me in this county. And it said that the primary ruling against me was because of the professional witness used. And the exact wording of the ruling says the primary to the testimony of this independent witness from a competing driveway contractor in the Fannin County inspector was the reason I lost the case. A week later, I got an estimate for over $16,000 to fix my driveway. And so I would ask, why? In other words, what was the reason for that? As I also heard mentioned a while ago, that by giving more power to the commissioners here, to cut down on favoritism. Well, that didn't work in my instance because I would ask, I used a company out here, a local company, I'll even mention the name of the local attorney, but it didn't turn out so well. And the key reason it didn't turn out so well is because there's a paving company owner in here that testified against me, said my driveway was good.
We're getting a little bit off.
Right. So I just wanted to say, my vote is to keep it the way it is, hold department heads accountable at their level, and then each one of them answer to the next level.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on local legislation?
I'd just like to make a comment that we had a call from the last meeting I made for citizens to meet and go over the existing local legislation in the draft that was currently being worked by the board. We had 11 people meet last Wednesday and we got halfway through it. We'll meet again this Wednesday from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at the Fannin Central is providing its offices. We did stay on time and it was a very civil meeting. And as I said, we had 11 people, a very broad representation. We'll continue that effort, and then, as you said before, once we conclude as citizens, we will then meet with each of the post commissioners and chairmen to get their opinions, as we can't basically have y'all meeting together.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any more discussion on local legislation?
I would like to say one more thing. You brought up a good point. Why would anyone want to fire anyone without any cause? I've been sitting here thinking about that. And, you know, that really rung home. Why would anyone want the ability to fire anyone without any cause? I mean, to me, that ability is sad to be able to do anyway. I mean, the ability to do that, to fire someone without any cause.
You don't have to use it.
What's more than that is a sad person to do that, so.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Bagley, if you have a problem with the decision in your court case, you probably need to talk to Judge Weaver, not bring it up in the commissioner meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Dawes,
Yes, sir.
you're gonna go over this a little bit more with both commissioners and then, set another date for another hearing or to vote on it or whatever. What
Well,
we're gonna do.
it's no way that it's ready to vote on now, and as I understand, I've got 2 other models that I'm going to get to y'all, and then you'll have to decide which way you want to go, and then it'll have to be put in order, and then someone other than me will have to provide a pay scale and job titles. I can work with them and put them in the correct order, but I don't have the expertise to provide your pay scale. I don't do finance for the county. I can add 2 and 2 and get 6, or subtract 4 from 6 and get 3. So,
We can get you that information.
sure.
Excuse me, just in just response to you, sir, about Mr. Johnson's statement there. I get the newspaper articles myself, and when I see that commissioners are asking for more power in the county, my concern was is that somebody would settle the stand and say something that they know is not true. Then that makes me wonder
Sir.
what they would do with more power in this county.
You're out of order now.
Okay, it's just in response to something, more power.
Yes, ma'am?
Since this gentleman said that Cat County uses such a good merit system, could we not get a copy of that also?
It should be in the commissioner's office in the file yet.
That would be good to look at as a matter.
It would be, the only problem I would see is that DeKalb County is a lot different makeup than Fannin. I mean, some of the issues are the same, you know, I mean, it'd be a good model to look at, I guess, is, you know, they're a lot larger county, they're a lot,
Well, Fannin, DeKalb County actually has an elected county manager. In addition to their board of commissioners, DeKalb County has an elected county manager. But there's Association of County Commissioners in Georgia has several models. That's where the one we got here, we took the one that was closest to what I understood you were proposing and adapted it from a county about of a similar, actually a bigger size, but you know, not DeKalb County, because they do in fact have an elected county manager in addition to their board of commissioners. I think he's on trial right now, but they do have one.
that's never good. Let's not talk about trials in here.
Anyone else got anything about local legislation? Okay, let's move on down to new business. Before we go any further, out of respect for you and the citizens and our post commissioners, I would like to take a few minutes to explain changes I will be making in regard to commission meetings. As chairman of the board of commissioners, it is my responsibility to act as a presiding officer and conduct commission meetings with a respectful, efficient, business-like manner. It has been suggested to me by several individuals in our county that the meeting have got out of control. After looking back at several meetings, I regret to say that I agree. For the most part, I've been the primary target for the uncensored, disrespectful name-calling, rants, displays, while leading to our meetings becoming out of control. And center stage for anyone who wants to blast me or this board or other county authorities. I'm here to tell you this kind of behavior is not what commission meetings are about. And I'm going to rectify it immediately. Fannin County local legislation has set in place 3-man board, with that board directed to hold regular meetings open to the public in order to inform our citizens regarding current business issues of the county and nothing more. After doing some comparison with other counties and how they navigate through their meetings and the rules they have placed, as well as looking back in our own history, as the presiding officer in charge of making sure that meetings are orderly and conducted in conformity, I've decided to change the structure of how our meetings are currently conducted. This isn't something I'm doing out of spite, it's out of necessity. The truth is, when I took office, I'm the one who removed the constraints of the number of people who could speak at meetings, as well as not requiring anyone to request to be placed on the agenda. I opened the door to any person that wanted to speak. At the time, I believe that the citizens felt as I did, had the best interest of this county at heart. I still have the best interest of this county at heart, and I believe that you citizens do as well, but it has proven that my decision to open the floor to public commentary has created grievous distraction from our duty as board to conduct the business of the county without disruption. With that said, from this meeting forward, we will adhere to the Roberts Rules of Order as they apply to Fannin County with strict emphasis on decorum. I have taken the liberty of copying the decorum paragraphs from the latest edition of the Georgia County Commissioner's Handbook. This handbook was restated and created by the Farmer Vincent Institute of Government, University of Georgia, to help every commissioner elected to local government navigate their way as leaders. This book refers directly from Robert Rules of Order as well as Georgia Law OCGA 16-11-34 as to the ramification if rules of decorum are not followed. I have included these paragraphs in a document that outlines public participation in commission meetings and meeting rules. Hopefully you have received a copy. Meetings will now have agenda available on Thursday prior to meetings so that everyone interested in upcoming business will have access to items for discussion and will be able to have time to contact the commission with questions or concerns before the meeting and prior to voting. I understand that not everyone can come to the courthouse to pick up an agenda. I know everyone has access to a phone, and it is simply calling our county clerk, asking her to provide you one. By email, fax, or just tell you over the phone what's on will be on the agenda. I'm sure that the post commissioner will agree that an agenda needs to be posted at the website on Thursday evening prior to meetings. This agenda will no longer have an open public commentary section. Instead, everyone wishing to address the board will need to contact the county clerk at 4 p.m. Thursday prior to the regular meeting and ask to be placed on the agenda along with the subject to your comments. I was elected twice to serve chairman of the board of Fannin County. I take my job serious, and the decisions I make don't please everyone. I know some of you may not agree with the way I've handled some things. Maybe I've made mistakes, but every action I've taken has been in the best interest of the county in mind. As chairman and presiding officer, I will not allow what should be a meeting held with commissioners to conduct the business of this county to send in a free for all name-calling, disrespectful fiasco. This behavior is out of order and it will not be tolerated. Now, hopefully you all had a chance to read the rules of this forum. Those present, not present, and would be watching. Rita, would you read that, please? Yeah.
The forum section on public participation in the commission meeting reads as follows. During all meetings, members are expected to behave with dignity and conduct themselves in a professional and respectful manner. All remarks should be directed to the chair and not to individual commissioners, staff, or citizens in attendance. A commissioner should not speak at a meeting until recognized by the chair, and all remarks should be addressed to the motion or agenda items being discussed. Personal remarks are inappropriate and should be ruled out of order by the chair. This was taken from the new edition of Robert's Rules of Order, page 260 out of the ACCG handbook. The citizens decorum reads, citizens who attend meetings or comment on agenda items at a meeting do not have the right to interrupt, or handful of commissioners, staff, or other citizens who have been granted an opportunity to address the commissioners. Citizens should be held to the same standards of decorum that apply to the commissioners. That is, inappropriate or offensive remarks and personal attacks should not be allowed. Inappropriate behavior can be ruled out of order. If a citizen becomes abusive or disrupts the meeting, the presiding officer may recess the meeting or have a deputy or other law enforcement officer remove the disruptive person from the meeting, if necessary, in order to restore the order. A person who knowingly commits any act that prevents or disrupts a lawful meeting may be found guilty of a misdemeanor. This was taken from the ACC handbook as well, with Georgia law OCGA 16-11-34 cited.
Thank you. It's not my wish to keep anyone, and I do mean anyone, from speaking on a subject that would concern them. And I invite all of you to continue speaking, but we will follow this new protocol, and I will exercise my authority as chairman to call a person out of order. If that person refused to follow the rules, the decorum, and if that person continued in the same manner without all of the derogatory, disrespectful comments, I will ask the sheriff to remove you from the meeting, and you will be charged with a misdemeanor. Again, I'm about getting back to business of the county, and if anyone has a problem with me, I invite you to come to my office. You'll speak to me in my office. I'll write a letter to the editors, and you let her out if you so desire. Listen all the ways you feel I'm in the wrong, but you will not do it during a commission meeting. Now, moving on with the meeting, since no one had prior notice that we will require you to request to be on the agenda, if anyone would like to speak, please come up. And I would like, Mr. Burton.
Yes, sir.
And so,
I'm impressed. I'm not what you do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, host commissioners, ladies and gentlemen in the office, the audience. My name is Steve Burton, and my wife and I, we are residents here of Fannin County and live in the Green Ridge Mountain Development located at 1132 Green Ridge Road. My purpose here tonight is to represent not only myself, but other property owners of the Green Ridge and Rip Shin Mountain Developments and private landowners along West Campbell Camp Road to formally request this board to please reinstate county maintenance of the currently gravel portions of West Campbell Camp and Rip Shin roads. Several of the property owners in the impacted area are in the audience tonight. Between these two developments, 60 existing homes and an undetermined number of undeveloped lots are now accessed by the West Campbell Camp and Rip Shin roads. According to longtime property owners in the area, the county previously maintained these roads for years until on or about 2010, when for some unspecified reason, the county stopped maintaining the roads. Since then, the property owners have had to pay out of their pockets for grading and graveling of these roads. Several months ago, a number of property owners submitted to this board and requested the county to reinstate maintenance of these roads, but to no avail. This evening, again, as I acting in proxy to some and agents for others, we the property owners and taxpayers whose properties are accessed by West Campbell Camp and Rip Shin roads, we respectfully request the commissioners to reinstate county maintenance of these roads. We sincerely believe, those of us who are property owners, believe this to be a fairness issue, as collectively we pay property taxes in Fannin County and want just a small portion of what we tie to this county to be invested back into the roads that the county previously maintained. Thank you for allowing me to speak regarding this matter.
thank you, Mr. Burton. Okay, does anyone else got anything they want to talk about? Yeah, Joe?
I'm Joe Webb, I'm a resident in Dial. I have a question about the new policy. If more people sign up then can speak in the time allotted, how will the decision be made as to who will speak?
Well, I guess that'll be up to the chairman. Is that the answer?
No
We've
person.
never had more than 6 people, Joe.
Okay.
Just,
Just wondering if the board has made any headway on finding a legal way to buy diesel fuel.
legal way to buy diesel fuel. Well, we're assuming we're buying it legal now, Joe, since it's approved in the budget.
John.
I mean, what?
It's John.
I'm John, excuse me. Anyway, it's approved in fuel, was approved in the budget. So that's how we buy it.
So the fact that the local legislation specifies that anything over 15 grand or, you're not,
Well, if we.
you're not going to put a contract out.
Okay, look here, if we, here's how it goes. Say we had put a roof on this, John, we put a roof on this courthouse.
Right?
We sent it out for bid, everything over 15,000. Services, and that sort of thing like that, is we do bid it out. But this right here is part of the budget that we approved last year to buy fuel for each department.
I don't think you're interpreting local legislation correctly on that matter. So what recourses do I have as a citizen now have to challenge your procedure on this?
Well, I guess you'd have to go get with Ms. Dawson, talk to her, and then if, you probably need to go to the district attorney. If that's what you feel like you need to do.
I think there should be a contract in place for these large expenditures that, even though they are budgeted, are over the spending authority of the board of commissioners. And diesel fuel, gasoline are the only ones that I can think of right now that are a regular recurring thing that have that ticket size limit. I don't think the local legislation, as I understand it and I read it, allows for the purchase of this type of thing without it being under contract or being bid out. And I think we all agree that bidding out diesel fuel and gasoline and truckload at a time is ridiculous. There needs to be some kind of contract put in place that you, as the board of commissioners, agree to satisfy the legal need that I think our local legislation requires you to have.
Okay. John?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is
Mr.
this
Warner?
public, is this public commentary?
Sir?
Is this public commentary? I'm Ralph Garner. I'm a resident of Fannin County. And I suppose most of you are aware that the Kubota tractor has formerly served a lawsuit in Fannin County. Many of you may have questions just as I do. For one, how could Mr. Simonds and Mrs. Doss possibly remark that Mr. Johnson's call for a closed meeting was improper and out of order? Had they not seen the letter from Kubota Leasing that threatened the lawsuit? What could Mr. Simonds and Ms. Doss possibly gain by ignoring it? A little time perhaps to settle the matter somehow out of the public's eye? In tandem with their denials of any threat of lawsuit came the News Observer's front page article, "Fannin Board Hides Behind Closed Doors." A piece of journalism as slanted as it was incorrect to make Commissioner Johnson look bad for having called the closed meeting. Why would Mrs. Doss write a deceptive letter to Kubota stating that the county had not appropriated funds to continue the lease? As Citizen Marty Kahn pointed out at the last meeting, post commissioners were never asked to deny appropriation of funds.
So why would she create such a preposterous story, Mr. Kahn said. His remarks were excluded from the News Observer's report. Suzanne Kahn followed with a concern about the disparity between Mrs. Doss's salary and the salaries of county attorneys in nearby and regional counties. She noted Mrs. Doss's remarkable income at taxpayer expense and said there should be an ironclad contract with Fannin's county attorney. Mrs. Kahn's remarks were excluded from Mr. Finnegan's report to the News Observer. Sam Walker pointed out that the entire board has control over the compensation of the county attorney. He pointed out that when Mrs. Doss's charges are expected to exceed $7,500, the bidding process should be in play. Mr. Walker's remarks were excluded from Mr. Finnegan's report for the News Observer. And it goes without saying that my remarks were and will be excluded from Mr. Finnegan's report for the News Observer. I have two suggestions. Commissioner Johnson and other citizens have expressed concern as to how our substantial SPLOST money is being accounted for. Inasmuch as there is no timely, ongoing, and independent oversight as to how this money is being spent, I ask the board to deal with this concern. Consider that even the city of Blue Ridge has its own accountant. I suggest the board hire a licensed CPA to handle the financial paperwork generated by the county as the days and weeks of the year progress. I would trust that it would take only a couple hours a week to keep our financial records current and accurately detailed, whereas now citizens are pretty much in the dark. Especially when budget time comes around, careful records would provide specific detail that could be attached to the budget showing how and where our SPLOST money has been spent. Now for my second suggestion. At the Board of Commissioners meeting of last August the 12th, Commissioner Johnson stated he has a problem in the fact that we are not putting the county's fuel needs out for bid. He said, quote, "I don't care."
Mr. Garner, please go ahead and wrap it up.
All right.
Under 5 minutes, sir.
I'm not 5 minutes, I timed it before I came here. I suggest that the board appoint one man to be responsible for doing the fuel bidding. I think the bids should be solicited from local dealers outside our parameter in order to lessen the chance of price fixing. As fuel is one of our county's greatest expenditures, why have Fannin County's fuel needs not been put out for bids under Mr. Simonds' chairmanship? Why has the failure to check spot prices on fuel been given a pass by Mr. Simonds?
Mr. Garner,
Why
your
has
time is up, sir. You're out of order.
I think you are a man on the ropes, and your
Mr. Garner,
emphasis on decorum.
please sit
I have
down.
one last question.
Please sit down, sir.
Are you now, or have you ever taken kickbacks or any other compensation from the board?
Okay.
I'm Gina Warwick. First, I'm not here to defend Mr. Simonds. He can defend himself. And I am so glad that we're going to return to some decorum in these meetings. But what's been happening in these commission meetings is disturbing. The public comment has deteriorated to trash talking and personal bashing of the chairman. It's obvious to everyone. The outlandish behavior is pretty much led by Mr. Gardner, who we appears to have personal vendetta against the chairman that goes back for several years. Twice a month for the past 2+ years, an angry Mr. Garner regurgitates the same statements without noticing or even caring about the groans and eye rolling of the people in attendance. Over time, he's garnered a few cult followers, and that pun was intended, who hang on his every defaming utterance and have become cheerleaders for his cause, whatever that may be. This type of behavior from Mr. Garner and his cheerleaders is non-productive, is also insulting to everyone else who's here. Although they may just like the sound of their own voices, they lack civility. The speakers come across as small-minded and rude. And this is just my own personal opinion, but noting the vehemence exuded when Mr. Garner speaks, it will not be a surprise to have him bring a noose and try to form a lynching party on the courthouse steps for Mr. Simonds. We've heard these tirades ad nauseum, so I can't believe I'm the only one who's seen and heard enough. As I said, I'm not defending Mr. Simonds. I just ask for common courtesy and civility in these meetings. And I fail to understand why no one before tonight has had the nerve to get up and say something about it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Or all right, public commentary is closed. Do you have any, Mr. Johnson, do you have any comments?
Go first.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner So, if you want to go first, I need to ask, according to the new decorum, I need to ask you to speak, so I can get them to ask you to see if Commissioner Sosby would be willing to speak first.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I'm good. Moving right along. On this merit system, getting back to it again, just thought, we're gonna give this a lot of concern, a lot of study, and we're gonna try to come up with the best plan we know how, see if we can all agree on it. And like the lady said a while ago, these meetings have been getting out of hand with a lot of different people. We're not doing county business when they do that. And it's good that we have citizens like her that stands up and does put her foot down, because, you know, she's like all the other people in the county that don't attend this meeting, but they read it in the paper, they hear from individuals how. Like, a lot of them tells me, you know, it's a better ticket, a free ticket, than it is to buy a ticket to go to a hoopla anymore. So, I want to applaud you for that, man, sure do. But, anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah, I too have been on the receiving end of a lot of, from the person spoke of, I've been called a phony, I've been called fake, I've been called many things. Even tonight I got some praise, about a court case. The difference in me and everyone else is I welcome it, because you know something? If I shut the people up, how good am I? What type of person am I? And I don't believe that the meeting should get out of order. I don't know how many people have ever been removed from a meeting, because I believe, you know, we've always tried to listen and let people say what it is they want to say. I want to continue that. Even if a person, whether they're praising me or whether they don't agree with me or whether they don't even like me, that's part of this job. I knew that when I got elected. I knew that when I ran for it, and I came up here and qualified right at the end of that hall. I knew that at some point in time, there will be people that don't agree with me. Just because people don't agree with me don't mean I'm going to try and shove them down. I want to vocally oppose not having an open public commentary. I believe we can keep it in order as well. I believe we can keep order in our meetings as well as have an open public commentary. My reason being is not so people can get up and trash any one of the three of us. I've had my share of the bashings, and I've took them home, and I've fretted over them, and I've thought about them. But you know what? The way I look at it is, at the end of the day, it'll make you either a better person or make you get out of the position you're in. That's what it'll do for you. That's what it does for me. Now, I'm sure it doesn't affect everyone the same. But if I'm a general, everyday working guy that comes to a commissioner's meeting for the first time and hears something in there that he just has a question about, or he's just interested in asking a question, if he can't speak because he wasn't on the agenda, I don't think that's fair. Now, that's just my opinion. There was one commission board that tried this earlier, and none of them are in office right now. They're not here. We got a fresh board because this was tried once before. I just want to voice my opposition to it. Whether a person agrees with me or disagrees with me, doesn't matter to me. I'm elected to serve all, whether I agree with you or whether I disagree with you. And I definitely, if you have a problem with me, I'm not going to try and shut you down. I think it's healthy every now and then for myself, for everyone sitting up here, to realize that we don't rule you, we represent you. And that's how I feel. I don't rule you, and I'm not going to shut you down. I'm not going to try and keep you from talking. I represent each and every one of you, whether I agree with some of you or not. I mean, it's about half and half sometimes when I agree with you or disagree with you. But the best thing is I want to represent you, and I want to continue to represent you. As a matter of fact, after what's been said here tonight, I wouldn't mind if these tables were back down flush with the floor and you were above us. Because I think that sometimes some of these thoughts of who we are as commissioners can kind of get out of hand as well. I don't agree with some of the comments all of us have fielded over the past 2 years. I think it's ridiculous. I think, like I said before any of this was brought up, I feel like we should respect each other, whether we like each other or not. And I still feel like that even after Ms. Wyrick spoke and after the people who've tried beating some of us in the head again tonight. I still feel that way because I feel like that's America. On to Mr. Mullinix's situation, his question. I brought this up earlier. I had no idea all this was going to tie together. Like it's kind of like the end of the meeting. Since I'm the one speaking last, I guess I'll finish up with this. The last meeting or the meeting before, I can't remember. Which one was it, Rita, that I voted for all fuel to be bidded out? 2 meetings ago, the motion carried by a second, and we still, that's why I said, if my motion to do something, we still hear that we passed it in the budget. I, as a commissioner, as one commissioner, do not feel like we need to continue buying oil from a company who was just in the local paper for not paying their property taxes. I do not think we should purchase oil from them. That's my personal opinion. I believe it should be bid out, and if we have bid it out, I would love to see the sheet of paper showing me where every drop of diesel fuel and gas that has been purchased. I want to see evidence that we bid it out before we bought another load. That's what I would like to see. I suppose you have that. To get the best price, we need to price it at least every time. We are in a dilemma with our local legislation. I am one who feels like we should follow the law. And the law, in my opinion, is as Mr. Monek says, any expenditure over $15,000 has to be bid out. I realize that I voted to put fuel in every vehicle in the county. I realize that without a shadow of a doubt. And what people need to understand is the county buys the fuel for every department. Every department, whether it's sheriff's department, EMS department, fire department, road department, anyone who burns county fuel, the county purchases it for them. And it's a very tough situation, Mr. Mullinax. Very tough situation, because I don't think you should have to bid it I think if we could get a price that's good for a certain amount of time, or if we could just call 3 suppliers and show evidence of that, which I'm presuming that is, but it's Jones Oil Distributor. It's like we can't get away from this guy named Jones Oil Distributor. I don't know why have any earthly idea. We got one from Thomas Oil Company, so someone must have contacted him, thank goodness. And then O&B Enterprises in Dawson. It's very refreshing to know that we are now calling and verifying these prices. Because my new job is going to be to take these prices and compare them to what we've paid for the past 2 years that we've used Jones Oil exclusively. And then I'll be able to report back on that. Because I'm pretty sure without it being bid, it wasn't the best price. And going forward, I think we need to do this. This is perfect, by the way. Whoever took the time to do this is perfect. We have 3 copies of different prices. And where me and you might disagree, Mr. Monash, I would think this is a bid. If every time we're going to get a shipment of fuel, if this is done, the hard thing is the way the law is written, it says we're supposed to advertise it. So that's another little kink we got to work out. And I am sure that this board is more than capable of working through this little situation. I promise y'all, I think we're very able to do that. I don't think any wrongdoing is being done maliciously, as it has been accused. I think there's just a new way of doing things every day is healthy. Other than that, I'm going to have to get used to asking permission to speak every time I speak. But if we're going to follow those rules of order, we're going to follow them to the T, and it's not going to be slanted one way or the other. The only question I have for the chairman is, so the chairman conducts the meetings, and so since you conduct the meeting, I suppose there's no vote necessary for taking public comments off the agenda. Since you run the meeting, right? There's no vote necessary for you to take public commentary off the agenda, correct? So when I get asked, I can honestly say, this is the chairman's decision.
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay.
Anything else, Richard?
Yeah. So I hate it for all the folks who can't openly speak in public comments anymore, I guess. There'll be a lot more coming and seeing him in his office rather than speaking up here, which I completely disagree with all of you. I hope you understand that. Hope y'all have a good week till the next meeting. That's all I have.
Executive session.
Before you adjourn, can I put my other hat on? I'm sorry, Earl.
I don't know. I gotta find out if I can speak. I don't think I can because I have to get permission. So I guess you speak if you have permission first.
Either one of you can speak.
Well, that's not what your decorum says, and I'm gonna follow the law. I'm not gonna keep doing it. We're gonna follow it or we're not. That's my opinion.
I wanted to respond to an accusation. I wanted to respond to an accusation as the financial director of this county that Mr. Garner stated regarding the SPLOST funds. The SPLOST funds are absolutely 100% accounted for on a daily basis. Books are open. No, there's not a daily accounting that's set out on the website or anything like that, but we do have strict rules and guidelines that we have to go by in our SPLOST spending. And if we don't go by those guidelines, then we get slapped by the state. We have yet to be at all reprimanded in any way, shape, or form by the state in the way we handle our SPLOST funds. And I just wanted to let y'all know that, so that you know that we are taking care of the finances in the county, and our books are open to anyone who wants to come and look at them. We have a yearly audit done. We have had clean audits for the past 4 or 5 years with no findings. And like I anybody to come and sit down with me or call and request a copy of our audit or ask me any questions about anything regarding the funds, it's just, I'm happy to answer.
I hear most of them. Mr. Johnson, you got anything else?
Yeah, I do have one more thing. On these prices, I like to see all of these come in at the very same time. So whoever's faxing them in, looks like one's coming in after all, and of course they're cheaper. And I mean, that's what we're gonna have to work through here. We're gonna have to do what's fair. We can't have anyone in this county playing favorites to who they wanna buy oil from. So we're gonna have to come to some kind of process of doing this and doing this fairly with all three companies if we're gonna get three to do this. I know it's not that big of an issue to some, but to me it is. I feel like being fair is key. So we're gonna have to come up with some kind of process for getting these quotes. Because some of these times, I mean, they're not making sense. They look good and all, but they don't really make a lot of sense. So, and I'm not trying to be hard on whoever's getting these prices, but we're gonna be fair, we'll be fair to all. As far as the executive session, you won't be hearing it from me. But if the one feels that we need, I guess.
We're gonna set the budget Thursday. I'm sorry, Thursday, at 6 o'clock, Thursday.
26, 6 o'clock, we set the millage rate. Not here, 6 o'clock. I mean, the 20th, excuse me, 25th,
What day of the
at
week?
6 o'clock.
Thursday, it's 2 days.
School board's at 30, 5:30. Here's no questions. Second. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.